Good morning, guys. Can you see me, hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Great. So let's begin today's session. Keep your back and neck straight. Sit comfortably and very gently close your eyes. Start observing the natural flow of your breath. Become aware of your breathing process. Slowly take the attention to your body and make sure that you are correctly aligned. Take a few seconds to adjust your body and to come in a comfortable and stable posture. Slowly come back to the breath. Now consciously begin to deepen your breathing. We will begin today's session by chanting Om 3 times, followed by 3 Shantis. Inhale deeply for Om. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Just observe the vibrations. Join your palms together and begin to rub your palms together. Keep your palms on your eyes. Very slowly, while blinking and looking at your palms, begin to open up your eyes and come back with a big smile. And namaste to everyone. Let us begin today's session. So yesterday we talked about the origin of yoga, and today we are going to cover the history and development. So history and development will actually help you to understand how yoga has evolved over a period of time, and depending on the environment and the mm, level of the student also, it changed, right? So it's something that um, even though it it changed itself, it modified itself so that the people who were living at that point of time, they could make the most out of it, right? So this entire tracing will actually help you to understand one thing, where you have to go. Okay, so right now the way in which the practices are going on, it's quite different from their original intention, right? So one thing, it will help you to trace it back and see where you are headed. And second thing, it will help you to understand how it is most relevant for you today, right? So how you can also practice depending on which category you are in, right? And you can imbibe these practices in your life, right? So there you remove the restrictions basically when you see the development of yoga, right? So I'll just write down the topic and then we'll start. Okay. So there was a time period when the yoga was systematized. Okay, so suppose some knowledge is existing out there. Okay, it's in a very scattered form, and then somebody comes and they give a compilation, no? Right? So our main basis for dividing the time periods is actually this compilation, right? So the timing before this compilation is known as the pre-classical period. Okay. This time period is actually before 500 BC. Okay. Then the classical period is our main, right? So this time period is actually like 500 BC, from starting from 500 BC till 800 AD. So again, guys, when you read the history, so maybe you will see a little bit change in the dates or the years. So don't get confused. Most historians, they have come to this conclusion that this time overall is considered to be Patanjali's time. All right. So you might find some variations. So don't get confused if you go and read and you find slight differences in dates. Okay. And third one is called the post-classical period, which is your after 800 AD. Okay. So depending on the classical period only, two timelines were given, pre-classical and post-classical, right? Now, post-classical also, as we come closer to our time, it's further categorized, right? Because we are coming close to our own existence, right? So one is your modern period. Modern meaning very, it's very close to us, and now yoga is actually imbibing more of the form that you see today, right? Even though in post-classical period it already started, but for us modern time is very relevant, right? And then we have the contemporary time, of course, the time in which we are existing. Right, so contemporary period is begins after the 1900s. You can say this is the broad categorization as you begin to see the history of yoga and then with time the development as well, right? So yoga has actually existed since the beginning of time itself, right? It's like some things, they exist before us, they exist during our time, and they will exist long after we are gone, right? So some practices have existed forever, you can say, since the beginning, right? So those practices, yoga is one of them, right? And you will see that for us, I told you the Vedas form the basis, right? So from the very beginning, so Indus Valley civilization, this one of the first few civilizations that were recognized, right? So, but there also you will find evidences of the existence of yoga in the form of carvings, right? So they used to carve things on the stones and the walls around them. So over there, it was seen that a lot of people were sitting in meditative postures, right, or doing some postures of the body, right. And even in Vedas, you will see the scattered mention of the process of yoga, right. So the word yoga was not specifically used in the Vedas, but practice of asana, practice of meditation, these things were present in the Vedas, but in a very scattered manner, right? So something was given somewhere, then something was given somewhere else, right? So it's very hard to systematize the practice, right? So all the things were given, but the correct way of approaching them, or a way of approaching them, basically, the practices was not exactly clear, right? So in your pre-classical period, mostly your Vedas and the existence of Upanishads. So the Upanishads came in story forms. So Vedas were very technical, right? And then the story and conversation form came in when you guys also listen to stories, no? So you get a greater understanding of a particular concept, right? So then the information, the ending portion of the Vedas came in the form of Upanishads, and it was mostly in conversation or story format, right? Which helped to capture the entire essence of the Vedas in an easier manner, right? Which could be understood by people, right? Also, in this time, there were two main epics that exist, and we will be studying about one of them, right? So Mahabharat and Ramayana. So I will write all of this down in chat box also, but right now I'm just telling you, right? So Ramayana and Mahabharat, these were two very main epics that existed in the Asian culture overall, right? So earlier India wasn't this boundary that you see today. It was, it had a vast land, right? So all of these things existed, and Mahabharata and Ramayana are, you will, when you read them also, you will see that they bring out a lot of practices of yoga, right? And your Bhagavad Gita will have a separate class. It is actually a part of Mahabharata only. So one portion of Mahabharata was separated out, and that famously got to be known as Bhagavad Gita, right? So all of these things, they had the definitions, they had the practices of yoga, but a proper system wasn't set at that point of time. In the pre-classical period, Buddhism and Jainism also gained a lot of, momentum, right? Siddharth Gautam, he is said to have existed 2,500 years ago, right? So which, um, uh, roughly brings us to 500 BC only, some time before 500 BC, right? So Buddhism gained a lot of momentum during his time, right? So people were mostly practicing those things, right? But the yoga that you study right now, that systematization took place in the classical period, right? So I'll just write down everything that was there in your pre-classical period. Okay, so first thing is your Vedas, right? Vedas, Upanishads, right? Then we have so Vedas, Upanishads, Ramayana, Mahabharat, Buddhism, Jainism. These were like basically being practiced at that point of time. So I'll just spell each and every one of them. Vedas, Vedas, Upanishads, Upanishadss, right? Then Ramayan, Ramayana, Ramayan, and Mahabharat, Mahabharata, Mahabharat. Right? So Mahabharat, we are going to, I'll tell you in your class for Bhagavad Gita also more about Mahabharat. And then Buddhism, 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 and Jainism, Jainism, right? So pre-classical period, very, very scattered and too much information was out there. So Vedas were in themselves like very hard to read and they were too long. Then if you come to Upanishads were also too many in number, right? If you and even Siddharth Gautam, so some of the philosophies they came up during this time, right? So Siddharth Gautam, he read all the philosophies that existed in his time, and then he realized it's doing no good. He's not able to eliminate the suffering, right? So then he went out on his own path, right? But he studied the philosophies that existed at that point of time, right? So you can see even in his time, he went more towards practice, but he studied all the information that was there. But the information, again, it did not give a way out of the suffering, right? So your Ramayana, Mahabharata, these are very, very great examples of if you want to gain a deeper understanding of what yoga is, because you see that the characters in these epics, they live their life uh, as if, right? So yoga wasn't a different practice, right? Their way of conduction and leading the life was such that yoga was a part of it, right? So if you ever find yourself, being very interested in how, the lifestyle can be imbibed, so you can read up on these epics, right? And in fact, we have a very famous festival over here. So last month we had Diwali, right? And that is connected to Ramayana only, right? When Lord Ram he came back home, so people in his kingdom they lighted the diyas, right? And we in India do that thing. Now the crackers and everything, they are also like a lot of pollution is created because of that. But initially only diyas were lighted because he had come back home, right? So in our tradition, there are a lot of festivals also around these things, right? So if you ever uh, feel like, okay, you want to read about these things, so at least for Mahabharata, I will be able to tell you, right, in that class. And Ramayana also, you can easily get hold of movies, right? Animated movies are there, right, related to the story, and even books are there. So whatever you find interesting or you find the time, you guys can go ahead and read about these things, right? So now, from the pre-classical period, we transitioned into the classical period. This is when yoga got systematized, right? So even if you, like I told you, all of these texts were very, very vast and scattered. So now came the time of Patanjali, right? And if you read his text, if you just read the verses, they are just 195 in number. Okay, so if you buy the book of just the verses, it's very thin, right? Only 4 or 5 pages, the text is finished, right? So now the entire, so all the practices, they were basically, why the classical period is considered to be the major period for the development of yoga, right? This was the time that the entire systematization took place, and a person could directly understand what yoga is, right? Because it was compiled together, right? So again, Maharishi Patanjali, he gave the Yoga Sutras. Okay, and we will have a separate class on the Yoga Sutras also. So don't worry, guys, you will not miss on anything, right? So at this point of time, Raj Yoga, we will also cover the schools of yoga. So we will cover Raj Yoga, Rajayoga. So his text is mainly talking about what? Raj Yoga, this which is considered to be the highest form of yoga. So when you guys are doing your other practices, you are preparing yourself for actually this practice, right? So the time was such at that point of time, the environment, everything, society's functioning was in such a way that this practice could be promoted, right? So Raj yogis, they used to, it's mainly circled around working on the mind, and meditation is a very important practice of Raj Yoga, right? So, system was designed in such a way that, children were sent. Yesterday also I told you, or in a previous class that after years of testing the student, then the student was admitted, right? So the system was functioning in that way that a child could go and learn yoga, right? Do meditation practices, live in that environment, right? So like right now you are living in a city, right? So when your classes end, you will adopt yoga in a very different manner in order to fit into your life and support you in your day-to-day living, right? But at that point of time, life was in such a way that people could leave everything and just give their entire time to these practices, right? So eventually you're going to, now when we talk of yoga also, so eventually the yogi moves towards this one, right? But currently the environment, because it doesn't support that thing, so we begin to first bring it into our life, and then as the right time will come, you will come to the yogi level, right? So at that point of time, the ashtang yoga, so ashtang yoga also we will cover, so 8 limbs of yoga. These were given by Maharishi Patanjali, right? So the entire systematization was given in his text. How you have to take each and every step, and it is a step-by-step process. So you can't, like sometimes we take 2 stairs at a time. So no, he said it is a step-by-step process, and you have to go on it after, keeping your foot on the next step, and then only you go to the next step, right? So you climb these steps to reach the final goal, and he gave these steps from the beginning, right? But still, Raj Yoga is a very advanced practice. The Raj Yogi, the person who is practicing Raj Yoga, has already perfected themselves in some other practices. And so they come to this portion, right? So you guys also right now, like you are doing your asanas, your pranayam, all of these things you are doing. So you're preparing yourself, your body, your mind for this practice, right? So when you attain the stability in body and mind, then you enter this practice. So this form of yoga is highly, even though yoga in general is highly spiritual, but this form of yoga cannot be practiced if you have any kind of depression, right? Or if there is instability in the body. Because if somebody has depression and then, you make them do meditation, right? So the entire purpose changes. So the purpose of meditation doesn't remain the spiritual advancement. The purpose of meditation becomes that the stress is relieved, the person is relaxed, the person has a calm mind and can take decisions in a better way. But when meditation is talked of in the sense of Raj Yoga, it becomes highly spiritual, right? Currently, we use meditation as a tool, right? So this is the distinction. So eventually, you guys also, all the practices that you do, you are going to come to this point only. So all the description of Raj Yoga, how you have to do it, what it is leading to, what yoga is. So we did the definition of yoga. So all of this is given over here, right? But as again the time progressed, so Patanjali Ji's time famously from 500 BC to 800 AD. This is the generally acceptable time, that this is the timeline in which he existed and systematized, right? After his time, the post-classical period started, right? So now, when the main person is gone, right, then the interpretation of the practices or there is some mixture or variation sometimes, added to suit people more, right? So in the post-classical period, people uh, reduced, you can say, or the practice of meditation was lessened a little bit. And it was seen that as the environment, the food, everything changed, now people needed something to keep their, maintain the health of their body, right? Prepare their body for the work of the mind, right? So at this point of time, practices like Hatha Yoga, they started becoming very prominent, right? You would have also heard of Tantra Yoga. Hatha Yoga, Tantra Yoga, these practices started gaining more momentum because these could be like the progress could be easily captured. One thing is that, right? And the mind was also not prepared to enter the Raj Yogic practices. So as people also evolved, so more emphasis was given to the preparing the body, right? But again, the preparation of the body is being done for what? Raj Yoga. So when you guys, do asanas, the goal in your mind should be that we have to move towards that thing, right? So most of the world today, where is it stuck? Let maybe achieve the headstand or full split, right? So the world is going crazy about asana practice, right? And they get stuck over there. It is very true, when I was studying and doing my certifications, right? So initially I started yoga with a very different intention, right? But as I enrolled for the courses, the world is functioning in such a way, even I got caught up. So even I wanted to do headstand, I wanted to do the handstand, full split. And people in my batch, they were they had really good flexibility, right? And I always struggled with the asana part, right? I was more of let me sit and do meditation. So I did not like moving my body a lot, right? So when I saw the people in my batch, they used to stay back. We used to have classes from the morning till the afternoon, right? And then they used to stay back, practice for another 1-2 hours, right? And eventually it grew on me also, right? So now I started saying back sometimes, right? And I wanted to achieve all of those things, and very flexible people in my batch, no? So I also had this intense desire, right? And I got caught up in that thing, right? Totally. It took me a lot of while to come out of that thing, because if you achieve one asana, then you want to do another, right? Then you want to do another, right? And you forget the entire point of your practice. The point of your practice is not that you achieve this asana or that asana, this posture you complete or that posture you complete. There is always scope for improvement, right? When you guys also started your practice and till now, right? So you see that there is scope for improvement, and this is going to remain true throughout. So throughout your life, there is going to be more scope to improve your asana, right? Maybe even your pranayama practice, there is going to be scope always. But people get stuck over there, right? They just want to do that thing, not recognizing that it is just a stepping stone, right? Asana, pranayam, mudras, bandha, all of these Hatha Yogic practices. Hatha Yoga in itself is a stepping stone towards Raj Yoga, right? And if you forget this thing, then again you will stop your progress. Nobody else will come and stop your progress. You will become a barrier towards your own progress, because you are not working on the mind, right? So all the practices of Raj Yoga, they're going to help you to change the intention behind your Hatha Yogic practices also, right? Once you start becoming aware of this thing, even your asana practice will begin to change, right? Earlier you used to get up practice every day so that the full split is achieved, right? But now you will feel your body, right? And the point of asana practice is also to be connected to yourself, right? If you ever get an injury, right, it is because you were not practicing yoga, right? You were doing something else. Why? Because when you are practicing yoga, you will not lose the connection with your body. And if you are connected to your body, you will never cause an injury to yourself, because I will know when my body has reached its final capacity, right? And if I overstretch at that point of time, right, that is when I cause an injury, right? So if you really practice yoga in the form of asanas only, if you just stick to asana, right, you will never cause yourself an injury, because the entire practice connects you to yourself. So the entire world is doing yoga in a very different way today, right? But you guys, because you are doing a teacher training, you should be aware, right? What is the intention of your practice? You should be aware, right? It's not merely achieving flexibility. That is not why you came into it, right? Otherwise, you would have done something fun, no? You would have joined a dancing class, or you would have gone for some gymnastic class. Those things are fun, right? Yoga is not fun, no? You were looking for something else. When you joined, you were looking for something deeper, right? So don't keep your practices merely mechanical or just to increase your flexibility, right? They have greater scope, right? So then, as we came down to the post-classical period, the other things, they were, removed, because they were seen as, harder to achieve in the beginning. So Hatha Yoga also says, first attain the stability of the body, then you will be able to stick to a set of rules, right? A set of regulations. Raj Yoga, in the beginning only it introduced. It said that if you're coming over here, if you're giving time, these are all the rules you have to follow, right? But then as Hatha Yoga came in, Hatha Yoga said, okay, let us remove the rules. Let us first attain the stability of body and mind so that the rules can be followed. because if you just try to follow the rules and regulations, you won't be able to move ahead. So time changed in such a way that people were not able to stick to the rules and regulations. Now the life started becoming different, right? The way of living, everything, the way in which the society functioned, it started becoming different. So that was put for a later stage. Right now, first stage was attain the stability, right? Then slowly, we came to the modern period. So this is the time when the yogic practices, these gained a lot of fame in the Western society, right? So a lot of yogis traveled from the Asian area, the West world, right? And this propagated this, concept of yoga, right? Like Swami Vivekanand, he went for so many conferences to the West, right? And if you read about his life and how he, traveled and everything, so his conferences became very popular also. So that is when, before that, the Western world wasn't aware, or very few people were practicing, right? But from 1700 to 1900, in this timeline, even yoga became very famous in the Western world, right? It started gaining a lot of momentum, and it started, practicing those things. So a lot of people started practicing. Okay, let's try, let's see what is being said, why they are saying this thing, right? So now it started spreading in all the directions, right? So a lot of yogis of this time, so Sri Aurobindo. So now more variations started taking place, right? So if you see, the integral yoga is given by Sri Aurobindo, right? So his system of yoga functions in a very different way, right? So if you go to any ashram, you will see this thing, right? So now the gurus who came in, they started giving their own. So earlier also the gurus were giving their own interpretation, but now these practices begin to gain, for us, these became very relevant, right? So Sri Aurobindo, then Swami Vivekanand, right? Even I think Pattabhi Jois, no, he comes in contemporary time, right? So all of these people, they started. So Swami Vivekanand has written about all four schools. So we will also study four major schools of yoga, right? So he wrote about all the schools of yoga, how it has to be practiced, what has to be done, what is the intention behind the things. His guru also, he gave all the understanding and learning on the concept of yoga, right? So now, again, now it's like spread throughout the world, right? So if we come to contemporary times, a lot of yogis are still passing this down, right? So you will see like Pattabhi Jois, right? So your Ashtanga, the form that you guys practice in your classes. So Ashtanga was given by Pattabhi Jois, right? So he, practiced Hatha Yoga, and then he came up with a set of his own series, right, of the practices, right? So you guys are doing primary series, so he came up with other series also, some advanced series. Then there is secondary series. Then sorry, yeah, secondary series is there. Then he gave a set of series in that way. So he changed the practice to suit the Western world, right? Because you see, when you go towards, like, if you move away from Asia, right? So especially in the US and even in European countries, so the cold weather is too harsh, right, compared to our climate, right? So Ashtanga is was developed more with the point of view of the European weather and the weather of the United States. Why? Because if we sitting in India, we practice a little bit, we will start sweating very easily, right? Because the temperature is not too less, right? But you guys, you needed more physical practice in order to sweat the same amount, right? So harder practices started coming in. Why? Because sweating is a major block to the flexibility. When you sweat, you release out toxins, right, from the body, right? So even Vinyasa style, so T. Krishnamacharya, right, he gave the Vinyasa style. So he also designed it in such a way that, there is constant flow and movement, right? So if you see Hatha yogic practices, they are more about going into the posture and staying in the posture, right? 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3, 4, 5 minutes, right? But then the flow and the dynamic styles started coming in, and even in India they are practiced, and there is no harm, right, in practicing these, going for these practices when you are in India. But the thought process, I'm just telling you about the thought process in which they were developed, because these guys, these practices you will see are more famous in the Western world, right? So Ashtanga, Vinyasa flow, these are more famous outside than in India. In India, practices like Karma Yoga, right, and Hatha Yoga, especially for us, Hatha Yoga schools are there a lot, right? So we'll sweat the same amount by doing Hatha Yoga, but dynamic flow is more, was developed keeping in mind more the weather of the outside areas, right? So in this way, the practices were changed again, right? And then in current times also you will see Sri Ravi Shankar, right? Sadhguru, S.N. Goenkaji, so Vipassana also came in, right? Osho. Osho also became very famous in the Western world, right? And even in India, there are a lot of Osho ashrams, right? So these people, they came in and they carried the knowledge forward in today's time. And today, yoga is seen more as a therapy, right? So in today's world, we are trying to cure diseases through the practices of yoga, right? Because in our time, the disease is existing at a much larger, um, it's existing a lot more than it did before, right? Before it was like if a pandemic would have come before, no, so it would have never gotten out of China, right? Why? Because the transportation was so slow, right? So in the area in which the epidemic came, it never became a pandemic, right? It remained in that area unless and until people traveled. But now what is there? Flights are so easy and convenient. So why is COVID spreading so much? Right? Because the movement is taking place at a faster rate, and again the virus is such that it is not causing a lot of death, right? So it's adjusting itself, no, so many variations have come in till date, the variations are going on, right? So now yoga is seen more as a practice to cure ourselves, right? To come to a point where we can lead a healthy life, right? So you will see Iyengar Yoga. This is a very famous form of yoga where the use of bricks, the use of chairs, straps, all of these things are done. Why? Because there is no point of attaining the final posture. And most people you guys will also teach, they will not have the level of flexibility you have, right? So teacher training will help you to enhance your flexibility, right? But most of the students who will come to you, they will not be able to do most of the postures, right? So you will modify, right? So you have your alignment classes, no, where you learn how to modify or what is the correct way. So you will at least take care that the alignment is correct, even if the full posture is not achieved, the person is not doing it in a wrong way, right? So these things have become more important, right? So you guys should, pick up more on how you can make use of the pillars, the blocks, because today's world, it doesn't require to, it's not looking for attaining flexibility. They are looking for curing themselves. Most of your students will also have one or two conditions, no? So you will check how severe it is, right? And then you will give them practices. So now, if you want to teach the current uh, people, right, who are there, so your grip should be stronger on this. I'm telling you this why? Because it will help you in a more practical, this is a more practical approach, right? And these practices that you are learning over here, these will help you to move fast in your own journey, right? So these can become more personal, right? And whatever classes cover the variations, they will help you to teach the people who are around you, right? So this is how yoga developed, right? And I think now, Kim, your question has been answered more deeply, right? That why yoga is, how yoga is practiced today, and for you guys where you have to move. So your goal has also become very clear to you. Any questions from today's session? Anything that I can elaborate on, or some confusion? No confusion? Sure. All right. Okay. So then we'll close today's session. Okay. So tomorrow's practice, sorry, yesterday's practice only, guys, continue. Okay. So see what type of suffering you are facing and categorize it as soon as you recognize that you guys are suffering in some manner, right? So continue yesterday's practice only today as well. So let's close our class for today. Sit with a straight back in any comfortable posture. Close your eyes. We will end our session with one Om chanting, followed by 3 Shantis. Inhale deeply for Om. Shanti. 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 Join your palms and simply bow down. We will just begin our day with a sense of gratitude. Say a mental thank you to everything and everyone you have. Begin to rub your palms together. Place your palms on your eyes. Very slowly, while blinking and looking at your palms, begin to open up your eyes and come back with a big smile. Namaste to everyone. I will see all of you guys for your pranayam class. Take care, guys, and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.